Here's a question for you. We are currently swimming in information. We can't escape it. And if information was truly the answer, surely the world would look a different place than what it is, the current narrative is for many people out there. Surely we'd be living in a much more harmonious, loving, kind, compassionate place. But what I truly feel now is that most people don't actually need another answer. They need to stop negotiating with what they already know, something deep within. Because at what point does learning actually become hiding? Hiding from the truth of who we truly are. So this podcast today, I want to explore the gap between knowing the truth, but then living it. And the hidden cost of playing it safe, and why we keep distracting ourselves with whenever growth asks something of us. Let's dive into it. So I guess the question then becomes, when are we hiding behind information, keeping ourselves distracted from the growth that is wanting to come through us? And I contemplate this now. I'm feeling in a very self-reflective week this week. Again, we were just in New Zealand last weekend and I had all sorts of challenges thrown at me. Oh my gosh. First of all, the events were phenomenal. The people were phenomenal, but I got our plane. You might have seen a reel I put up. Our plane got diverted last minute from, I was supposed to land in Wellington in New Zealand. I got diverted to Christchurch. So that was like midnight, and we didn't land till 1:15 because they were circling Wellington for a while before see if the thunder would clear. And then we sat in the runway for about another 45 minutes in Christchurch, seeing if they could fly back to Wellington to land. And then they finally called it. Then I ended up waiting for a hotel for about an hour, and I got to bed at about, I think it was like 2:30 a.m., maybe a bit later on the way there. And then, oh my gosh, they were then going to fly the plane the next morning. So the plane was due to take off at 8 a.m. So I ended up having to get back up and be at the airport by 6 because it 6:30, which gave me, I think, about less than 4 hours sleep, which I am not good with sleep. And then from there, we ended up sitting on the plane on the runway while I was still waiting for the clear. So I ended up waiting and then waiting for the car hire. Oh my gosh, it was just breaking me wide open. And then Matt was due to fly in. He ended up plane being nearly 4 hours late, so I ended up getting to the destination really late at night that night, with the event the next day, and then holding space, going through it, and then coming out the other side. Holy moly, that was a challenge I can assure you from that. And it was interesting. I was chatting to a friend of mine who I trust with a lot, I can confide in. And the first thing he said was, that's interesting, isn't it? The universe is really looking at you to surrender. And so you can continue to allow in what the expansion of yourself is wanting to show you. And that was the first part I went, isn't that interesting? And what did I have to do in all that? Surrender to it. Just that there was an allowance. And to a degree I did. But you can't help but still, when you're tired and you're feeling it, it's like, and there you go. Right there and then for me was spiritual boot camp again. And the shifts came this week. My nervous system was fried, feeling it, more integrations from the energy of the events. And it's like, holy moly, I'm getting to the point where I just feel like I'm just going to just keep letting go. That's all you can do quite often with this. And the reason why I'm leaning into this, because I had kind of notes here and I think it just didn't feel right. I just wanted to speak from the heart and speak through the podcast, because if information is the answer, like I mentioned, the world would be a very different place. But the reality is there's an allowance. We already know if we're willing to surrender into what's ever present within us. I always think about myself because I have 2 young children. I look at my children and see myself in them. You can't help it. My kids are 6 and 2.5, nearly 3. And when I look back on my life and see, and even as a caretaker for my children, we get born into this world and with this pure soul, with this pure essence, with this vibrant heart, love, light. Like, it's just one of the most amazing things to hold a newborn baby, and look into their eyes. It's wow. You can tell I've just become a big soft dad lately, right? But it's incredible, and then we do our best with our children to create a safe container, and obviously they got edges and they push those limitations, and as caretakers and parents, it's our job to nurture that in, because they just do anyway. Parents get this. This is not a parenting podcast, but the point being is that growing up in Wales, I was very conditioned through the schooling systems, the cultural systems, the hardships of growing up in the valleys, in the recessions, the growing up in a council estate. Like, it was rough, it was tough, it was all sorts of things, and it was shaping me and my identity as I grew from this divine little being into a teenager, into a man. And I'd strayed so far from the soul essence of who I was myself, then I felt torn within myself, if that makes sense. So the whole journey for me has been really starting to come back into all of that alignment. So all aspects of me are singing from the same song sheet, and we're not pulling apart in different directions to do that. And the reality is, no more amount of information is going to get you there. It's not. Let's make that. Now, I'm someone who has a podcast. I love sharing it. I love conversations. And through the years of podcasting, as these bits of insights and information, and I hope you guys do this too, is that I take with it, I action it, and then I lean into that and explore those concepts and ideas. We have an acronym called HEARTT that we wear on our shirts with a double T. And the first one is H, humility. If we don't have an openness, a willingness around this beginner's mind, and stop thinking that if we're identifying by our success, our achievements, our certificates, or whatever it might be, that we start to use externally our materialistic things, our relationships, our identity, all that becomes constructs of our identity. And underneath all that is the true self. And I believe what's happening right now on this planet, if we are moving into deeper states of awareness as a species, and if universe is divine love, this essence of vibration, then, and we have been so separate from it, then they say the greater the separation, the greater the suffering. And if our emotional resonant states are moving towards back to this divine self, then surely we are becoming a more loving, compassionate, being asked of that. But what tends to happen is that if we're conditioned to fear, and our bodies are conditioned to fear, and our nervous system is hardwired in such a way that it's been programmed because of our cultural and all the different identities shaping our state of being, the moment the soul is craving for expansion, is craving for growth, just like the growth in the ever-expanding universe, we are part of that. So if that's kind of expanding, then it's creating a resistance within us, because the identity and the structure that we have created within our life here and now is actually then starting to conflict with the ever-expanding growth. Because as a species, we're terrified of the unknown. We're kind of hardwired that way. And anything beyond that area that we've created in our life, the construct that we feel like we are in control, makes us fearful. And then we start to resist. Yes, we start to resist. So I'm going to go into one of the notes here, because then through the resistance to it, that's where the friction lies. Because do we need to learn more about the nervous system? Do we need to learn more about, I don't know, trauma work and meditation and healing? If you're watching this podcast, you've been on this path for quite a while, or even if you're new to it. But ultimately, it's coming back to then applying in the moment. It's like if we're resisting that, it's like trying to stop a river from flowing. That is life. Energy should be flowing continuously. Life is constantly flowing through us, and we are just trying to build a wall against it, and we're resisting the ever flowing and expansion of ourselves. So what tends to happen through that resistance, then things start to get our attention. It could be from our bodies. We could start to feel exhausted. We could start to feel angry. The body could start coming up in physical symptoms. All sorts of things might be starting to grab our attention. Circumstances keep reoccurring in some way. And we just try overriding it because we are unwilling to surrender into the soul. It's like, are we able to free fall and let go? I remember when I was getting these nudges massively. And when I've spoke about it a couple of times, when I had the supplement company 180 Nutrition, you can go and Google it. I mean, it's closed down now. But at that time, everything started reflecting in my external world, and I started to realize that I have to lean into this work, because in my knowing had been for years that this is where the direction I was going. And I'm going through it again right now. I know it in my heart and my soul that the acceleration and growth of me, expansion again, is happening to a level that there's things wobbling around me that have been created from the old self. And I have to continue to surrender into that and create an allowance and claim my true self even more. Okay, but we're so fearful to do so because we might fit out, because everybody else has put us in a box unconsciously, and we just automatically think that we then have to appease everyone around us, otherwise we're gonna tall poppy syndrome kind of thing. So much goes in our heads, but at the end of the day, if most people are thinking about themselves, then if we're thinking about ourselves, then nobody's actually thinking about you anyway, right? You just see it and move on. Isn't it amazing, the fear of being seen, the fear of being just a little bit more vulnerable, authentic and honest? Like, how does that even feel when you think about that, when you feel into that in your life? Do you really know what you could be doing better? And what happens if you met that in that moment with that raw vulnerability and honesty and just owned it and just allowed that part of yourself to express yourself? I'd been hiding behind the podcasts for years, actually, in some ways, because it helped me to grow as an individual and having amazing guests, and I still do, and I still love it. Don't get me wrong. And if you've been following my podcast for a long time, you probably have noticed the certain shifts and even the conversations that I'm having with people, and some of the depths that I want to go to because of my own enriching journey. And to ensure with the podcast for my own personal growth, I've started doing this more as well, where I'm just speaking from my heart, hopefully connecting with you as the viewer, even though I've not met you before, but you can feel it, right? And I feel like that's what we actually need in the world right now. And if we can inspire each other to do that, then I really feel we can do some amazing things. We don't have to. It doesn't have to be this grand, audacious thing like I'm running events and retreats and everything, but it can be as simple as the people around you, how you show up in those moments and how you nurture that into your life. But if we get in the nudges can start to become brutal, because there's a part of ourselves denying the true self, and we're in conflict with ourselves. And we normally then perpetuate the fear and go into panic as opposed to just the allowance of. And that's where guidance, mentors, and support, I feel, are pivotal through this, because ultimately the spiritual gym is pretty rough. Like when we start to declare yes to this, we're always getting asked for more growth, and ultimately we have to have that pressure to allow us to propel forward through that expansion, contraction, like the jellyfish. Yeah, that's how you move through water. So, and we get so comfortable in our lives that anything that's uncomfortable, we just avoid. We just run away from it. But ultimately we need to be leaning in. So when I was in my company, I'm just going off in tangents here, I apologize, but hopefully this is resonating. You know, we had an accountant run away with a lot of money that we were in the midst of moving manufacturers. There were all sorts of things where I was just like, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. I was entwined in this in such a way. My whole identity was entwined in it. For the first time, I'd really felt like what success, materialism had felt like in some ways. I had to go through that. And I had to, and I could see it because 10 years prior to that, I remember getting run over, getting hit by a car on my bike, push bike. I got T-barred. And it took a bike accident for me to really wake up to my sorry self, where there was some big choices I had to make at the time. And it was that allowed me to just surrender to it. This is so exhausting, holding this on and on. And it was coming again. And I thought, wow, the car was a real metaphor the first time. I feel like there's a Mack truck come in if I don't actually own it. So what it allowed me to do, well, it's like, if I want to teach this, if I want to get out there and support others, I don't need to continue to hang qualifications on my wall and represent. Of course I study, of course I enjoy growth as well, but in terms of the application, I really felt that what was going to resonate the most was how I walk my path, how I embody this work to then show up to encourage others to do the same. So I took a massive leap of faith. I surrendered into the unknowing. I even remember telling my wife, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to sell out of the company. I'm going to figure out how to do it. And I'm going to help people find the soul self, find their divine self, the true potential again. That was stirring in me in such a big way. And I remember she just looked at me and was like, okay. But luckily, lovingly, whatever, she supported me the whole way, and I'm truly grateful for that, and got behind me, which was really important as well. So I just started doing it. And then every day I would feel that discomfort, but because I was inside leaning in, I declared yes. I was all in, understanding, like I spoke about in the other podcast, the wild stallion versus the rider and consciousness. It's a great podcast, by the way. If you don't know what the hell I'm on about here. But then nurturing, how do I nurture that in, right? You know, because if we don't listen to that, everything has a cost. If we don't start investing in ourselves, investing in the priority of ourselves first, and that means, you know, taking space for your morning or through the day and allowing. You got to do the best you can with what you got, but just know in your heart and soul that you're saying yes and you're moving forward, not through force, but through almost an act of surrender as well, and that willingness to go there. So if we don't, every negotiation that we constantly negotiate ourselves with, the internal knowing that's already there, has a price. Don't forget that. It will have a price. So we need to start honoring that. So I pulled out a quote. There's a Maayan Sebbag. There's a podcast I did earlier this year. It'll come up here now. The boys will edit it in, but please go and listen to that podcast. It is one of the best podcasts I've ever recorded. It's incredible. Her story is incredible. And she she basically got caught in the world's largest earthquake. She had all her jaw crushed. She should have died. I don't know. It was a miracle. The story's not, I don't want to give it away. Just listen to it. But at the end of that, what's she say? I've got the, she said, I realized I was never honest with myself. I lost so much. She'd been playing it safe her whole life. And when she came out of the earthquake, she couldn't talk for 6 months because of her jaw and her tongue, I believe. So she'd been sipping. So she didn't speak for 6 months. And then when she'd come out of it after having her soul mystical experiences through the earthquake, and then coming out, she vowed only ever to speak from her heart from that point moving forward. Like it took an earthquake for her to realize how far she had strayed from that pure essence of herself. And then when she started to get clarity, she knew that it was already there. Imagine that. Imagine if we took a vow only to ever really speak from the true self. How interesting life would be then, wouldn't it? Wow. So as we decide to do this, I believe that life ends up asking us to choose. And it's in those moments, in those choices, if we have the courage to honor them, is when our soul really starts to allow. It's like our life catches up with the soul expression of ourselves. And then that aspect, that allows us to really move forward through that. And what that does, it diffuses the internal split within us. And it gives us alignment, not perfection, not enlightenment. It's simply the moment your actions finally match your truth and you go from that vantage point. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you. So let me know in the comments if this resonates. Where are you on your truth? How much of it you feel aligned or out of alignment? Yeah, I know it's scary. Trust me. I know. But ultimately, why do we do it? Like, why wouldn't we? For me, I'm more fearful of living out of alignment than I am in actually owning my true self now. That's what propels me forward. And through that, there's new reiterations, new versions of myself that's constantly growing and expanding, with the old infrastructure, the external, having to reshape itself to match my new frequencies as I move through life. And that's okay. And I have those negotiations with myself still daily, but there's an allowance to that. But one thing I'm really passionate about, and something I've always done, is ensure I'm investing in myself. And that can be financially, that can be through the foods I eat, the movements I do, the people I spend time with. There's a constantly, I'm ensuring that I'm enriching my life in the right ways and find ways to do so. That's always been my attitude. That's why we do what we do. So if that resonates, fantastic. We also have, I'll put a link below as well. We have a community of people all around the world called our Inner Self Mastery. We've been doing it for years. I don't really talk about it that much, but it can be life-changing for people if you want to connect with other beautiful souls, if you want to have structure where you can find your true self in a very simple, laid out manner. We have frameworks, and it's all about really starting to embody your true self, because that's what it is. It's about becoming your own guru, right? So if you want to find out more about that, and come and join the community over there, there'll be a link below as well. But anyway, much love from me. I hope you got something out of this podcast, and I will see you soon. I'm standing here right now in Lake Taupo in a beautiful retreat space. And there's a vast difference between an intellectual experience and passive listening to a fully embodied, lived experience. Because that's what retreats can do. They can help you land, start to truly reconnect to yourself, to others, to nature, and to spirit as well. There's so much in it. That's why we created Live in Flow, and that's why we are so passionate about getting this work out there and bringing people together. If you want to find out more when our next retreat or event is coming up, just check out the link below.